I'm Sin, and I'm a UX designer. I also do illustration on the side. I identify as a non-binary and pan-romantic demisexual. It's a very long label, I know. But yeah, that's me.
Does your family know about your identity?
My family definitely knows now. Back then when I was with my ex, they didn't know because I felt like there wasn't a point to saying anything because you wouldn't like when you're in a straight passing relationship, there's no need to tell them, hey, I'm actually attracted to like girls also. Like, doesn't make sense, right? So I didn't tell them only until much later.
Hello, where were you? Hello. What were you talking about? Where were you? I messaged you. You did not reply. I called you. Like 2 minutes ago. The phone has been ringing damn long, huh? Okay. You're really gonna eat Cheerios on... Okay, cool. Drink my Milo. So what do you have planned for the rest of the day?
How did you first realize that your daughter might be queer?
Well, first of all, when other girls in her school were starting to, show an interest with boys, I noticed that it wasn't really happening. I mean, not that it was super obvious or anything because she was in a girls' school in primary school. But yeah, she didn't show a whole lot of interest, and I kind of noticed that, I mean, she wasn't really like a girly girl. So even though she was in ballet, but she wasn't really interested in like girly stuff at all. I did get her a Barbie doll at some point, and she literally played with it. I don't think she ever played with it. So she wasn't interested. She was a lot more interested in books and stories. So I just felt like, she was a tad unconventional.
Oh, this is our family at Hari Raya. That's my husband, my son, and my daughter. Is it on Instagram? Oh, this was the Rainbow Project last year. I've always known that they might be, so there was never an official coming out thing, except when my daughter did come out to tell me that she had a partner, and then I'm like, oh, I already kind of knew. But the thing with me is that queerness is just a normal thing. It doesn't seem to be, it doesn't feel like it's an extraordinary thing or whatever.
What I expected was like, I don't know, I think every like queer person who is like pre-coming out, they always feel like the family is going to disown them or like never talk to them again, or like, oh, I'm prepared to run, like get out of the house, right? So like I think like even though I knew that like my parents like really love me and would never like disown me, I still felt like there was a possibility of that happening.
The clients that I see or have been seeing for the past coming to 6 years or so, the struggle for parental acceptance has come up more often than not. I mean, apart from other kind of issues that they come in with and all, at least 1 in 5 clients that I see, the subject of parental acceptance and all comes up.
And in terms of that, like, what are some things that they struggle with respect to like parental?
They struggle with that fear of rejection from parents. At the same time, the fear of being kicked out from the house, and also that kind of isolation that they may get at the end of the day. But the lack of support from parents and that threat of ending, any forms of relationship.
I remember on one occasion, the mom actually said to me, "Elle, you're a mom, so you should understand that the worst nightmare for a mother is to find out that their child is gay." And that made me so incredibly sad because I could not understand how someone's thinking could get to that point where how could it be that being gay is perceived as the worst thing? How is that even possible? You know, and when I was trying to unpack it and figure out like what's my response to that, you know, I was saying like, yeah, you know, as a mom, I think your worst nightmare is not that. It's if, I don't know, if, you know, something terrible happens to your child, like they get sick or they're in an accident, you know, or if they turn out to be a terrible person. But even so, your job as a parent is clear. You're there for them in whatever way, shape, or form you can be, even if you don't agree with the choices that they've made. Like, that's the job. And any belief system that you think you might subscribe to, whether it's religious or whatever, to me it's so fundamental. Anything that tells you that you can't love your child the way we all know we should has to be wrong, or your understanding of it has to be wrong.
So many parents, they come in with these ideas of what their child is going to go through, you know, when they're transitioning or as a transgender person, right? So these ideas might come from media, might come from, you know, their own experiences from friends, etc. And they are feeling a lot of hurt, shame. You know, they're going through their own loss as well, right? So when they have all of these emotions, they expect that their transgender child is also going to have these same emotions. It just feels natural to them. But in reality, actually, their trans child might be the happiest that they've ever been. Right? This transition is actually what elates them. It's what brings them new life and joy. Right? And this is something that parents sometimes struggle with, that, you know, the emotion they are feeling with this transition is so different from what their child is actually feeling. Right? So they tend to project then these emotions onto their child, right? And expect that the child should feel the shame and negativity from all of this as well.
I feel like a lot of families, I mean like people who feel like their family can't accept them, is that the parents worry that the child like can't find happiness or something like that. So it's kind of like, I think when we like just show them that like we also like live like everyone else, then we can find love like everyone else, or not, you know, if you're not up for that, then that's fine, as long as we're happy. I think for me, for my parents especially, their like value is that they want me to be happy, and like that's how they came through. So I think for everyone else who is like struggling, I feel like just hold on, live your life, and like I also hope that like more people get support from their biological family in the future.
Parental acceptance is important to everybody, not just queer and trans people. But I do feel like it's more required in a lot of queer experiences, because you're not getting acceptance from the rest of the world as well. Right? So when you're being rejected by society, you're being rejected by the people around you, then you would expect that the people that are your main caregivers would be the ones to accept you. So a lot of people who are rejected, face rejection from their parents or their main caregivers, they do end up with a lot of internal self-hatreds as well.
So when we talk about parental acceptance, I think it is definitely the most important thing for our shelter residents, because it's precisely because they do not have that they end up, you know, in the shelter or in similar circumstances, right? And then we see that, I mean, a bit of a trigger warning here. So with that rejection and trauma and those attachment injuries, most of the time then it leads to multiple other issues apart from the obvious homelessness, such as suicide thoughts, substance abuse, and things like that. Yeah, so this is a profile that we're seeing of the residents who are referred to our shelter. So because of that, then I say that parental acceptance is definitely very important, because it is at the root of most of the issues that take place that lead people in our community to, you know, need help in the first place.
A lot of queer individuals in Singapore don't have the full acceptance of their parents yet. Is there anything you'd like to tell these people?
For queer people in Singapore, families can be fun, families can be hard, families can be tough. Families can be the ones that we come from, what we call families of origin. Families can also be formed and created and chosen as well, what we call families of choice, families of creation, and of course there's rainbow families as well. Again, families as an entity, as an institution, as a concept is not carved in stone in a dictionary. It's what we make of it.
Someone last week said to me, "Oh, can I have a hug? I really need a hug from a mom type." And I'm happy to give hugs. I'm good with hugs. I like my hugs too. So I'm happy to give hugs to whoever needs them. But it's very sad. I mean, I'm a mom hugging somebody else's child because they are so touch-starved. And this shouldn't be the case. It's very sad.
I feel like there is no like perfect form of acceptance, right? Like when I watch like shows, like how to say, like those more, I guess, Western shows, like they always show like the parents. I mean, in a wholesome representation, they always show like the parents like being like overwhelmingly accepting, and like they will go to like Pride with their family. I mean, their kids. So for me, like I think like that's very sweet. But unfortunately, it's very rare for an Asian family to do that. So for me, I think my family, like the kind of acceptance they've showed to me and my partner is like they just treat us like normal, you know, like that we are not weird. And also like in regards to like me being non-binary, I think like my mom is always trying. Like I've told her like, you know, I don't like her to use like gendered terms and everything like that. So sometimes they sleep, but then my mom will say, hey, you know, they don't like to be called that, so don't use. And then she also like reinforced that I changed my name to my family. So like all these like small things, I think really just that's the best I can ask for. And yeah, like I cannot like expect them to like use the right pronouns for me because it's just like more difficult for them to wrap their head around.
In the past year or so, we've seen actually an increase in the number of parents of LGBTQ children coming to us for support. And quite often the parents who come to us, they are either seeking support on behalf of their child, or they say they are making inquiries on behalf of their child. And quite often, usually when they get in touch with us, what we usually do is we get in touch directly with the parent first. Whether the child is a minor or maybe the child is a young adult, we want to make contact with the person who is initiating contact. And often when we get in touch with the parents, we realize that even though they want to get support on behalf of the child, quite often they themselves need the support, and they also come in to ask questions and seeking information on how they can better support their child. So oftentimes when the parents come in and we schedule a session with them, we may not even call it a counseling session. We call it an information session just to catch up and just to understand what their needs, what questions they have, and also what expectations they might have in terms of getting support for either themselves or for their children or for their family. And quite often we just start from there. And some parents understandably come with a lot of questions, because even though they may be aware of what we are as an organization, they may not be entirely familiar with things like terminologies or what the child is telling them about coming out, or if the child is transitioning as a trans or gender diverse person, some of the terminologies like, you know, what is non-binary, what is trans. And of course, very understandably for a lot of parents, there's a lot of worries, anxieties about what this might mean for the child to come out, to transition. So overall, I think we can describe that for a lot of parents, they come from a place of wanting to learn, wanting to understand, and also wanting to support their child, because as parents, as all parents will hopefully agree, it's really about the safety of the child that they are most concerned about.
I have a client, a young trans woman. She actually made a bold decision to come out to her family as a trans woman. So prior to which, they didn't really have a clue about her gender identity, and she was not very comfortable, or she didn't feel safe to share it with them. Yeah, so it was quite a huge thing for her, and I could see that she was very committed and she had a lot of courage and vulnerability in that moment. And she has a partner, so her partner was very supportive, so they used to come for sessions together. So because she made this decision about wanting to come out to the family, then we wanted to support her in having that conversation. So we started by inviting mom down first, because my client felt that she was closer to mom. It was probably easier to come out to mom first. So mom was really nice. She actually made the trip down. She, looked around. I gave her a bit of a tour at Alicia Community Center, and she wanted to find out more about our services, what we do, who we are, and all that. So I explained it to her. And before I brought her into the room, because up till then, she had not seen her child presenting as a woman at that point in time. Yeah, so I gave her a bit of a heads up, prepared her. But she had a rough idea because client did speak to her before that session. Yeah, so the good thing was when she entered the room, she didn't take any issues. And the even better part was, throughout the session, she started to use she, her pronouns when addressing her daughter. Yeah, so mom was, really open, curious, asking a lot of questions. And I think the main theme in that conversation showed a lot of the care and concern she has for her child, because at the end of the day, she just wanted to make sure she knew what her child was going through. She wanted to see how she could be of support. She wanted to learn more about what it means to have a trans child, what it means when your child is trans. And she also wanted to share her concerns with her child for her child's well-being.
Were there any sort of like concerns that you might have or worries that you have now knowing that, oh, my daughter is queer?
I think, of course, the first thing that you worry about is how others will perceive her. Whether that's going to get in the way, be it in school or next time when she's grown up and has to look for work, whether that's going to be an issue.
My daughter, because of her and her partner, with the housing restrictions and the very, very strict, let's protect the sanctity of marriage kind of thing. I mean, I just have to know that in the future sometime I have to look forward to saying goodbye to my daughter, because she will not have a future here. She will probably relocate to, I don't know, Australia, UK, America, anywhere that will accept her, except maybe not America. It's too scary there at the moment.
Your parents are very accepting of you and your identity, right? How does it make you feel to have such accepting and supportive parents?
Well, I do realize how fortunate I am. Like, I feel like acceptance is kind of a bare minimum, or like, acceptance and love for your child. But I do have a lot of queer people around me. But accepting parents is a minority. And I do feel lucky for that. But in terms of my life, like if I don't compare it to other people, it feels very normal, very natural to be who I am. I don't really have to hide anything per se. Whereas perhaps some of my friends would, have to choose their words or hide certain things from their parents, or like maybe like their parents kind of know but it's uncomfortable and like they don't really want to get into it. So yeah, I don't have to do any of that, which is nice.
Last year they actually offered for my partner to move in, and then recently she actually ended her contract with her landlord, and she actually just moved in last week. So I think that was like that's a huge milestone. So I think it's very sweet that they not just accept, but like not just accept her like on the surface, but really like accept her into the family, and yeah, I always joke to my partner. I was like, I think you are going to be her favorite already lah. Like I'm not like the best child anymore, cause I think like I jokingly say that, but I feel like it's a bit true, because like my mom has always like even when she had me she was always like she wanted daughters. So it's kind of like I told my partner, like ironically she gained a daughter. Like she lost me a daughter and then she gained my partner who's a lady lah. So it's kind of like funny how it ended up. So I think it's very great that the acceptance is like this level. Yeah. A lot of parents like eventually do come around. Unfortunately, we can't like guarantee when they will.
So if you're a parent watching this, I invite you to ask yourself, listen to yourself and ask why. Why does it matter to be a parent? And then hopefully that will give you some support, will probably answer some of your questions and maybe start addressing some of those doubts and fears and worries, anxieties you have.
Parent has to also realize that it takes a lot of thinking and pondering and self-searching for a child to want to tell this to the people that are most important to their lives.
At the end of the day, if you acknowledge that your child is your child first, then I do personally believe that everything else will fall into place after that. Because fundamentally what you have for your child is love and care and concern.
So when you look at your child and you say who they are not, just remember that all those things that you remember of them growing up are still there. You know, they're still a human being behind all of this, right? So to parents, just love your child. You know, love them for who they are as a human being before any of these other identities or expressions that maybe at this point of time you're not able to understand.
When you choose to have a child, you choose to stand by them. It's non-negotiable.
Also not forgetting all those available resources out there for you. They are there available for you. Get in touch.